Greetings, I'm Shad, and in case you didn't know, there's a really cool book that has just been released, which is entitled Rhythm of War, the fourth book in the Stormlight Archives. And as you might have been able to pick out from the introduction to this video, is that I had the privilege to consult on this book as well, which was a wonderful experience and has made me rather excited for this book's release. So far, all the books in the Stormlight Archives have been exceptional, like really well done, but the first book, The Way of Kings, holds a special place in my heart for having the greatest emotional payoff out of any story I have ever had the pleasure to enjoy. And I say story there because I'm including film, TV shows, everything. Every single story I've been able to enjoy in every single medium, it's The Way of Kings that has had the greatest emotional payoff out of any other book. Put me in a greater emotional high, enthrallment, enthusiasm for that book. And specifically it was how that book ended. It was just phenomenal. Dalinar is up there with some of my favorite characters. I really do like Kaladin, but out of the balance of my favorite characters, is Kaladin at the top? I don't know. I mean, I think there are others that I find to be even more enjoyable just for my own tastes, but Dalinar in particular I really, really like. And the interesting thing about Way of Kings is that the emotional payoff was only able to be achieved, in my opinion, from the way the book set up the ending. And because of that, it needed a very specific kind of way, beginning, that some people might not enjoy, because it is a bit slower, and I found it a bit more depressing, but I can guarantee if you're willing to stick it through, because of that setup, because of how almost difficult the beginning is, that's what actually makes the ending work so phenomenally well, because you need to understand the context and what this characters have gone to make the ending have such an impact, which is just amazing. So it goes to show that sometimes you need to do things that from certain perspectives might have been considered a bad choice, because yeah, it was a bit slower, it was a bit more depressing, but it set up such an amazing payoff. So if you haven't tried any of the Stormlight Archives books, you really need to. They're phenomenal. I highly recommend them. And there's kind of an added bonus with this most recent one, Rhythm of War, is that I've actually been able to influence it even in a small bit, which is a hugely fulfilling thing for me. So much so, I think, it deserves a little bit of explanation as to why. You're going to have to bear with me just a little bit while I, open the curtains and share a bit of my fanboy side. And I apologize, Brandon, but I generally feel that exceptional individuals, and when I say exceptional, I mean genuinely decent, good human beings that have done multiple things to increase the goodness and joy in the world, deserve a measure of credit, and you definitely are one of them in my own opinion, because Brandon has had a massive impact on myself as a writer, not only in the way I approach fiction and writing, but also as an example, as an inspiration, because he wrote, I think it was 12 books, correct me if I'm wrong, might have been 11, but he wrote several books without getting published, and he kept going, and that type of perseverance had a profound impact on me. And he was one of the key influences on me that helped me realize the path in my life that would give me the greatest happiness. And it wasn't being a successful writer, it was just writing, that I could spend my whole life not getting published, not being a success in this field, having written however many books, and I realized I would have spent a more fulfilling and happy life living that way than if I gave up on such a dream or stopped doing what I loved and just got a job that I wasn't enjoying, and so many other things. And it was Brandon's example that had a profound impact on me in learning that. So as you can imagine, my regard for Brandon is actually exceptionally high for the positive influence and impact he's had on my life. So of course I feel he deserves to be given credit for that. He is a man that tries to actually give back to the community to help inspire the next generation of writers, and I genuinely feel I'm an honest byproduct of his efforts. When I set out to wanting to be a writer, I needed to learn how to do it, and so I was looking up, any lectures and stuff like that, and I came across certain lectures that were filmed that he'd done in cons, okay? I think one was Jordan Con that he was doing for the Wheel of Time, or was it something else, but it was filmed, it was posted online, and I listened to it, and it was that was this lecture, I remember, where Brandon was describing viewpoint, and it was actually that lecture that taught me the difference between third-person omniscient and third-person limited. I didn't understand it at that point. This is when I was just, starting out, so give me some, leeway here. I was an amateur back then. But that is a key, fundamental thing that you need to learn in the writing craft if you're going to do it it well, and it was Brandon that taught me that. And from there, I looked up anything else that he shared, and guess what? He taught creative writing at university, and he put those lectures online for free. And so he has been a phenomenal resource to me and many, many other people in their pursuit of achieving their dreams if it is to be a successful fantasy author. As a result of this early influence, I followed Brandon's career very carefully, not only because I really enjoyed his work and that I admired him as a person, but for him being such a phenomenal resource that usually any public address or filmed address that was put up online that he gave, there was always something of value that he added that I hadn't heard before, even if it was covering the same subject. And what was also interesting, I've also learnt moral, ethical things from him that has improved me as an individual, made me a better person. I remember when he was addressing some of the backlash that the novel The Golden Compass was receiving by Christian conservatives because some fundamental themes in that book was against Christian belief. And I myself, as a Christian, kind of got caught up in that. I didn't have any strong opinions. I hadn't read it, but there was a side of me that was ready to be overly critical of this book. But when Brandon shared his opinion on that, it honestly made me a more reasonable and open-minded person about that it's perfectly fine for people to share different views. In actual fact, I think it might have been him that actually said that if what you believe is true, and I'm paraphrasing, I can't quote exactly, you shouldn't be afraid to have it be challenged. You should actually be more open to let it be challenged, because if it is true, all that will happen was just strengthen the result, or at least that was kind of the ultimate understanding that I garnered from initially hearing his opinion on The Golden Compass. Because in case you didn't know, Brandon and I actually share the same faith. We are members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And this is just one example of a lesson I've learned from this exceptional individual that has helped me be a better person as a result. And so I kept following him and learning more from him, because he was always so free to share his knowledge and expertise with the world absolutely for free. So I've kind of been internet stalking him for a while. Not anything weird, mate, but I've already shared the very reasons why. It was for me to actually grow and to learn more and to improve in this craft that I wanted to pursue. But as a result, I also got to learn a lot about him as an individual, because he's so open with many of the experiences he's had in life. And one of the things that I kind of find interesting where I am now is that there are some parallels which just make me reflect a bit deeper, because Brandon has influences that he really admired. One of them being Robert Jordan, who is a phenomenal author. I have the whole Wheel of Time series here. I actually read the Wheel of Time after I started reading Brandon. In fact, I only started reading Wheel of Time when Brandon was actually asked to finish the Wheel of Time. And what an experience that would have been to Brandon, because Robert Jordan was one of his heroes. And then he was given the opportunity to finish the Wheel of Time, to have some measure of input in the works of a man he greatly admired. And this is what makes me kind of just have to pause and just go a bit crazy, because this is kind of in a smaller measure, much smaller, but it's a similar thing where now I, through pursuing this thing and actually learning and gaining so much from what is being given out to the world, is that I was able to become a success myself, where I built a successful YouTube channel and I launched my debut novel, which has become a great success as well, which has been phenomenally amazing. And now, reaching that point, Brandon learnt who I was, not through me trying to reach out to him, but purely through the results of the work that I was producing. He came across my videos online and enjoyed them as well. And when we finally contacted each other on Twitter, he was already intending to ask me to consult on Stormlight 4. And I remember I had no idea that was coming, okay? And so I want you to try and picture my own personal reaction when that was offered to me from a man that I honestly admire so much and has had such profound positive influence on me in my life. It was probably one of the greatest moments of my life. So that was a life achievement for me right there. And oh boy, was that pretty cool. And now it's out. So I hope you understand. Please, just bear with me because of my emotions, because there's an additional thing that's kind of made me stop and just reflect a bit, because it's one of those wow moments as well, is that now there are people contacting me telling me that I'm influencing their lives in a positive way, which is incredible and amazing as well. I've shared now and then in different videos my own journey to get published. I shared with all you when I got my first, actual physical copy, and it was the video entitled Achieving Your Dreams. And people have reached out to tell me that these things have been a positive influence in their lives, helping them realize that they could achieve their dreams if you approach it in the right mindset and you don't give up. And when I hear that, I kind of think of myself when I first started out in that journey, looking up to Brandon Sanderson and the positive influence he was me. And it's kind of becoming a positive loop in the world, which is a phenomenal thing. And it goes back to the people who influenced and inspired Brandon as well. People like Robert Jordan, David Farland. And then when the people whom I'm influencing in a positive way become a success, they will go on and influence others as well. And let's hope it just continues, because that's a wonderful thing. And because you understand some of the backstory, I wanted to share this moment with you as well, with the release of Rhythm of War, to give my honest gratitude and admiration to a man I do admire greatly. I wish him even further success. In actual fact, with the way he's going, I think he's going to be one of the greatest fantasy authors who's ever lived, especially with the body of works that he is making. It's phenomenal, really. So if you are going to read Rhythm of War, I'm not going to give any spoilers, okay? And even though Brandon gave me an early rough draft of the manuscript, I haven't read it either, because I'm still a fan, okay? So even though we had that really fun consultation, I wanted to still experience it, most of the story as I could, as a fan. So I didn't read the rough draft, and I'm going to listen to it all on audiobook. That milky smooth voice of Michael Kramer, and just phenomenally rich, emotional voice of Kate Redding. I can't wait. I won't be giving any spoilers, but if you pay attention to one of the larger fight scenes that the character Adolin is in, there is a bit of my feedback and influence there, which is really exciting. Zweihanders, great swords, baby, right? That scene initially didn't have a great sword in it, and I just suggested to Brandon, in this situation, a great sword would actually be really effective, and it could look really cool. And Brandon's response was great. He was like, yeah, that would be cool, great. so that's cool. And there's a couple of other key kind of battles, fight scenes, or discussions around swords and stuff that Brandon specifically asked my feedback on, and that was outside just generally being available to answer any weapons, armor, combat, warfare related questions. I got to give a bit of feedback on some clashes that the character Kaladin has with some singers. Again, no spoilers, and I mean, the fact that Kaladin is going to clash with some singers in the book, duh, I mean, it's, so that's not a spoiler, okay? And I will be paying attention to a line I suggested that I don't know if it's actually in the final, version. And it's a line I've said on this channel many times that I think is very appropriate to anyone who loves swords, and it's, you can never have too many swords. So I can't wait to find. And look, even if it's not, that's perfectly fine, because Brandon knows where something will fit or where something doesn't. But I'm going to be paying attention to it just to find out, because of course I'm going to get a buzz if that's ended up being in there as well. So I'm going to just now round up this video. There are very few entertainers that I actually admire, because those entertainers that become successful obviously are going to be good at entertaining, but usually their personal lives leave a lot to be desired. Now, that's not a uniform thing. There are, of course, many celebrities that are good people, but a lot, unfortunately, there's a bit of a distinction there. But Brandon Sanderson specifically is one of those unique people that not only is phenomenally talented at his craft, he is genuinely one of the best people I know of, and therefore I've admired greatly and will continue to admire for many, many years. And I want to say from the bottom of my heart, thank you for everything you've done. Not only for your works, which we get to enjoy, but for the genuinely decent human being you are, and the inspiration that you've been to myself and many people, and the efforts you've gone to give back to the community that you make works for, and to help inspire the next generation. I am deeply, deeply grateful for that and for you, and I wanted to thank you personally. And also thank you for everyone who has watched this video, letting me be a bit personal, okay? But also I wanted to share it with you because it's a milestone in my life, and it makes me have to take a step back and just go, wow, this is pretty awesome. So thank you, and of course I'll see you in the next video. So until then, Farewell.